So I think D8 and D8 Plus are both still relevant Hoist products. It completely depends on the application. We now do our D8 Hoists with a double breaker standard as an added safety feature. But I think in reality, the D8 Plus is becoming more and more prevalent. It's becoming the standard hoist. Certainly when you're doing a risk assessment, a lot of the time for your rigging project, a D8 Plus hoist takes away a lot of the hassle. Things like adding secondary safety suspensions, that kind of thing. Using a D8 Plus hoist means you don't have to do that. The higher safety factor in the chain, the stronger hooks. So it does cost more to buy a D8 Plus hoist. But ultimately, at the end of the day, I think in rigging projects, safety is our absolute priority. So the use of a D8 Plus hoist above a D8 in certain applications is a much, much safer option. So yes, it's an increase in cost, but you can't put a cost on safety. I mean, there's a lot of D8 hoists in the market. They've been in production for many years and we still sell a lot of D8 hoists. It's not that you can't use a D8 hoist. The only stipulation is if you use a D8 hoist and it's suspending a load above an area where people are going to be underneath, in the hazard zone underneath, you should always use a secondary safety. So it's not that you can't use your D8 hoist, or you can't continue to use the D8 hoist that you own, but when you do have to install a secondary safety device, it's got an element of risk attached to it. So when you do a risk assessment for a project, if you can avoid things like working at height, and you can do it with the equipment that's available, D8 Plus is an ideal solution. Finding or using a D8 Plus hoist to get around having to put a secondary safety on does reduce the risk. So therefore, it's a safer, easier option. All our components are manufactured in-house in our factory. We have full traceability of all products. So any gear, wheel, any motor pinion shaft, everything is marked with its own unique ID code. And that ID code tells us what date that component was manufactured, which machine it was produced on, who was operating the machine, which batch of steel was used, the supplier of that batch of steel. So full traceability in the event of any kind of problem or accident is important. It could be a batch problem with the steel, for example, or it could be something else that's happened during the manufacturing process. At least with the traceability, you've got the absolute assurance that the quality is of the highest standard. When we produce our components in the factory, we buy steel from steel suppliers, steel wholesalers, but we'll take a sample of every section of steel that comes into the factory. We take a piece of that, we cut a piece off, we send it into our own laboratory, and everything is tested to make sure it's the correct grade of steel that we've been supplied, and we're producing the components out of the best quality materials. We don't manufacture our own chain, but we only buy from 2 suppliers. We can guarantee the quality of the chain that we're using. So we don't buy chain from anywhere, we only deal with these particular suppliers. A Chainmaster entertainment hoist, we only use grade D8, which is a case hardened hoist which is designed to last a long time and have good wear resistance and good shock resistance. You can find cheaper options, you can find cheaper chains, you can use cheaper grades of chain, but you're certainly not going to get the lifespan and you're probably not going to get the reliability out of those cheaper chains. If you've got a quality hoist, it's going to last a long time. And you do need to do regular service and maintenance. So make sure your hoists are regularly inspected. I think one of the main issues or the main things that gets overlooked is lubrication of the chain. That chain needs to be regularly lubricated to make sure it doesn't wear out, to make sure you don't get twists or chain jams or that kind of thing. So chain lubrication is probably the most important thing, the most important point of service that often gets overlooked.